Ladies and gentlemen, the Aints are back. I was up after the game last night, reading sports updates and such on the internet, and I saw that Deuce McAllister had torn his ACL and would be missing the rest of the season. And as Tuesday morning quarterback, one of the best things on ESPN would say, I got out my notebook and I wrote this: season over. That's a little, for those of you who don't read Tuesday Morning Quarterback, that's one of the things he says he does after viewing a particularly disastrous outcome for a team, like the Rams losing Orlando Pace, and in this case, the Saints losing Deuce McAllister. Really disastrous. I'm not going to make too much fun. I think that's all the fun I'm going to make, because I don't mind the Saints. I certainly don't hate them. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for Drew Brees, one of the best guys in the NFL. And I feel bad for Deuce McAllister, whose season is probably over. And, well, yeah, definitely over. His career may even be over now. I feel bad for, Reggie Bush, who's just had an awful year so far. It's rough. And, I feel bad for the Saints fans who bought season tickets and expected so much or whatever, but there was reason to believe last year was a flash in the pan. As for where they went wrong, I think it comes down to a couple of things. That offensive line isn't playing well. That much is pretty obvious. Offensive line not showing up. There were several plays yesterday, for instance, where they were just standing there and letting somebody just run past them. They're forcing the ball to Reggie Bush, not giving it enough to Deuce. The first 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, there wasn't enough Deuce, and now you've got no Deuce, so that really shows you, that gives you an idea of where this season is headed. Reggie Bush just isn't ready to take on a full load yet. And beyond that, I think we might have jumped on the Sean Payton bandwagon a little too fast. Maybe he just isn't that good. He spent, like I said before, I believe, he spent several years in Dallas and never did anything spectacular, and then he goes to New Orleans and has one good year. So maybe we all just jumped on him a little too fast. I mean, that draft pick to this day, Robert Meacham, still boggles my mind because, shoot. I mean, you have good receivers. You've watched your quarterback spend an entire year throwing the ball to backup receivers as it is. So why would you go out and use your number one draft pick on another wide receiver? Why not get defensive help that they could clearly, obviously, use right about now? It's just a collection of things. This team has a chance to, as long as they have Drew Brees, a guy I still respect, as bad as he is this year, and as long as they have him, I think there's always the opportunity that they could rebuild for a run next season. But it's like I already pointed out, season over. As for the Titans, I'm impressed. You guys know I'm not the biggest Vince Young fan. I don't think he's polished enough yet. I don't think he should have won Rookie of the Year. But he's looking good. I do think there is the opportunity to get better and to be a good quarterback in the NFL in the future. I certainly think that. I respect what he is able to do. He's not a bad player by any means. That running game looking good. I actually drafted Lindell White in one of my fantasy leagues, and people laughed at me for obvious reasons, and I ended up dropping him because I needed wide receiver depth or something or other, and maybe I'll try and pick him back up again because he's still out there. But he's having a good season. Chris Brown. A lot of it comes back to that very underrated offensive line. Kevin Mawai. If you're a big football fan, you'll know who he is. Very underrated center. Spent so many years with the Jets. So the AFC South is actually looking pretty interesting right about now. You got Jacksonville, Houston, Tennessee, and of course Indianapolis. You'd assume Indianapolis has that division well within its grasp, but it's not an easy division by any means. So that wraps up the week 3 of NFL action. A couple of injury notes. It looks like the Rams have lost another offensive lineman, and Steven Jackson will be missing next week as well. So you kind of get an idea of where that game is going. They're headed to Dallas. Things continue to get worse for St. Louis. Let's see, who else? Ward is unlikely to play next week against Arizona with a knee injury of some sort. I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. But Ward has done this the last 2 years now. He misses 1 or 2 games because of a minor injury, and he keeps falling short of 1,000 yards, so I kind of was hoping he could play a full season this year. Because, he's half Korean and so am I, so just kind of a link there, I guess. And, what else is there? Vernon Davis out 2 weeks. And I'll probably get to that a little later. Later in the week, I plan to make a video about the 49ers game because this is probably a bigger game than anyone would give it credit for as of this time. And, wow, Chicago. Here are the starters that they're going to be missing next week in all likelihood. Dusty Dvorak, Mike Brown, Lance Briggs, Tommy Harris, and Nathan Vasher. That's 5 of the 11 defensive starters. And let's throw in Ricky Manning Jr. usually plays the nickel. I don't know if he's going to play or not. I think he's hurt with some sort of injury, but... And now you've got Reuben Brown, one of the offensive linemen for Chicago, out. I wonder if putting in Brian Griese is going to do anything. Because Rex isn't good. I mean, I think we've all come to that conclusion by now. Maybe he'll be good one day. I keep that possibility in mind, but he's not good now. But when you look at what Griese is being thrown into, you've got average wide receivers who are kind of lazy, and their lazy route running leads to interceptions. You got a lackluster running game. Cedric Benson continues to disappoint horribly. And you've got a banged-up offensive line. So I don't know if Griese is going to be able to save this team because he's no Pro Bowler himself. He always struck me as kind of a product of the system. So, given all this injury news and what has become a controversy at quarterback, I mean, Griese's better than Grossman, but maybe by not as much as some Bears fans would like to think. It looks like Green Bay has dibs on the NFC North crown, so, going to be a good year for Green Bay. Favre setting all those records. He's going to set a couple on Sunday, probably. And it looks like they could be back on top. Does anyone else have this, I don't know, crazy feeling that Green Bay could challenge for the Super Bowl this year? And I know it's kind of crazy because they haven't been able to run the ball yet. Right now, Dallas is the top dog in the NFC. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone to debate that, but things are going Green Bay's way this year. They won the Eagles game. They got lucky in that game. Say what you will, they were nothing but lucky. They pulled out a tough game against San Diego. I think they had some things go their way in that game as well. And they pretty much did put the smack down on the Giants, but things are lining up well for them so far. I don't got much else to say for this vid, so here's to many more videos with an actual webcam.